food has risen up to such an extent that they simply cannot afford to survive without assistance from the government. And hence, we are still presently in the Philippines providing just direct cash transfer payments. This is not something that we prefer to do. I don't think that anyone is particularly enamored with direct cash transfer payments, but it is the only way that we can mitigate the situation that our people have. So that is something that we are hoping with the creation of jobs and with the growth of the economy to slowly begin to dial down. And it is with the pandemic beginning to ease, at least in our case, then there's a great deal of hope that that emergency situation will slowly resolve itself into some kind of normalcy. In the long term, there really are, I agree with Mr. Moritz, the changes that need to be made are structural. They have to be done structurally because this is a different world, this is a different economy. And as we were discussing in the green room, he says, we're not playing catch up. And I said, even if you were, what are we trying to catch up to, 2019? I don't think that that's the plan. And so we have to be, we cannot be too married to the ideas that we were holding as truths before, and we have to be willing to make big changes, but with recognition that from what is actually happening around the world. But when we make these structural changes, I'd like to pick up on the point that Dr. Schwab made, is innovation. We must allow still innovation we must still continue to encourage innovation and to recognize innovations that can actually help and immediately put them into play or put that, if it's a product, to market, or if it's a system, to implement that system. So the agility that Mr. Moritz is saying, I think, is the key to the future in the long term for not only the ASEAN, Asia-Pacific region, Indo-Pacific region, but for the whole world.
Thank you, Mr. President. Short-term, long-term, Mr. Moritz, being defined as, you know, I could use in many different languages to describe the same thing or similar things, but in English it will be rivalry, competition, or cooperation, which we have seen in trade mechanisms, at least in the Asia-Pacific region for decades. Maybe we start with Mr. President on that.
As I described, I think one of the great advantages that that APEC and the countries in the Indo-Pacific, Asia-Pacific region have been able to manage is that very difficult balance between cooperation and competition. And yet we seem to, for the most part, I would say we have done it. And that is what has driven the growth of the region, is that we are able to compete with one another. But when we find opportunities where partnerships will give the better result, we are all perfectly willing to enter into those partnerships as well. So that, I think, is going to be key. We have done it before. It is the nature of APEC. If we continue to do that and strengthen that, I think it will be to the great benefit of all countries.
Thank you. Professor?
I think we should not underestimate the social pressures which make governments in principle today more egoistic, because they have to serve their